And we are live. So it's practically 1 o'clock. Let's just have a look. Who is Trisha? Oh, we've got some people watching. That is lovely. Well, I am here, not in the best of health, but I just thought I needed to do this. And as I will only be sitting down, oh, there we are, I can see, with the mess behind me. Let's see. So, oh, we can got some comments there. Come on. Whoops. There we go. Right. Oh, I didn't really want to have any noise. Oops, no. Oh, gosh. Oh, I tell you what, if anything can go wrong, it will. Because that is what my life is like at the moment. Okay. So, there's a few of you here. I'll wait for another minute, but I won't actually be saying anything to anybody because this is going to go onto YouTube. I'm not actually feeling better, but it's going to go onto YouTube afterwards. So it'll be in the Sew with Trisha group for 30 days, and then I feel it will be deleted. So as everything went completely wrong with filming beforehand and uploading yesterday, which took 11 hours, and then it was in slow motion, I thought I'm going to do a live and then I'll download just like I'm doing for all the ones over the years. So this is our Charlotte bag. It's the bag of the month for March, and it doesn't, well, it's a piece for the lining and some wadding as well. Now I've used H640, which makes a nice softish bag, but today I'm going to use fusible fleece to give it a little bit more, slightly more structure, but you could actually use Styleville as well. So, and I've got about an hour to be able to demonstrate this, because when I made the video, that was about an hour, which I thought was pretty good. And then I will rest for the rest of the week and hopefully get really so much better. So, as I say, yes, there's quite a few of you here at the moment. The PDF is in the files. There is a template as well for these little bag ends here, these little tabs. So that's the only thing that is a slightly different shape. The rest is very, very straightforward. So I'm not going to give any measurements because this will eventually go onto YouTube. But you will obviously have the PDF in the group along with the template PDF as well, which should be quite straightforward to follow. So I'll set that aside. I will put kits on the website shortly. So I've done two. I've done this was the original one I've made, and then I've done one in a chambray. So again, I've used H640 in this, and it's a nice soft, almost slouchy type of bag. And I'm not going to move the camera around, so it's just going to be focused on the machine itself. Okay, so there'll be those two options and the one I shall be making today. So what are you going to need? You are going to need, so I'm doing it in this colourway here. Let's just take this off here. So here is some William Morris fabric, absolutely beautiful. One piece of outer fabric, one piece of lining, both the same size, plus the same size in wadding. So I have actually used fusible fleece and already fused it to the back of the outer fabric. Now, if you wanted to quilt this, the outer fabric and the wadding would be absolutely lovely, I am sure. Didn't quite get a chance to do that, but I just thought it would be really nice to be able to do that. So you could do, don't quilt it through the lining though, that needs to be separate. You will also need a 4-inch width of fabric for your strap, and I've already stitched this together, but I will show you or talk to you through making your strap. And you will then need 4 pieces in this shape, which the template is for, 4 pieces to make our little tabs to go to make the strap tabs. So let me just pop this out of the way for a moment. And what I'm going to do now is just show you, talking, how to make the strap that we have here. So if you imagine, this is quite often how I always do my bag straps or handles. I have a 4-inch width of fabric, and what I do is I fold it wrong sides together and press. I then open out from the fold, and then I put the raw edges through to, or fold it to that crease that we've just made and press. Then I fold the other side in to the crease and press, and then I fold both sides together and press. And then we're going to stitch down both long edges to create your bag handle here, your strap. And I always, this open edge here, okay, there's no raw edges, but I always stitch down this edge first and then back down the other edge. So that is how we make the strap. Now this one will be it will be a full width of fabric for the strap itself. The other 2 ones are longer, so that it is they're about 54 inches wide, the fabric there, so the straps can be a bit longer. But this one is still fairly long if you wanted it to be crossbody. So that is those. Now I'm going to show you how to make, I think we need to come in just a little bit closer. There we go. Now I'm going to show you how to make these little pieces. Okay, this is what is going to sit on your bag for your strap to be attached to. So it starts life as 2 pieces of fabric which you'll cut from the template. Now it is going to be stitched around and turned through to the right side so that we have no raw edges. And this bottom edge, one of these bottom edges here, so I'm just going to put a pin. I would probably leave about 1 inch or so. So if you put pins there, just so that you know exactly where you are going to leave the gap. So I'm going to start at 1 pin and reverse a little bit out to this corner, up all the way around, and come back to the pin at the other side. So let me just see, that's it. So I am going to use just a standard length stitch, 2.5, which is what your machine will come onto when you turn it on. A couple of stitches backwards, out to the side, and up to that point there. Just going to see if we'll come in just a little bit further. No, it won't. That's as far as we can go. And then come down the other side. And you want to do this as evenly as you can, purely because when we turn this to the right side, we want it to be totally even, because it's going to be folded to go onto your bag, and you're going to stitch through both sides at the same time. So if it's 2 different shapes or widths or whatever, it's not going to lay evenly over itself. So I've stitched that all the way around. I'll trim off that little bit of fabric. Now I'm just going to clip away at these points here, at the corner points, like so. I'm also going to just trim a little bit extra from the corner. Whoops, got my scissors the wrong way around. That's better. From the corner, so just to the sides there and here. But I'm going to leave where the gap is as long as it is. And then the other points I'm going to clip into those where it goes diagonally and then it comes out again. I'm just going to clip in there. It will give a nicer finish when we've turned it through. Okay, so the easiest way, so here is your gap, and you might think, oh, let's turn it through from here. Not easy. The easiest thing to do is go to the opposite side, push those apart so that you can put your finger, nail or whatever in there, like so. Make a little indent, and then I've just got a brush, but if you've got a pokey tool or seam creaser or a knitting needle, and use the, not the pointy end, and just push it through like so. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my scissors, but I'm not pushing the end, I'm just using that to push out these corner points here. So, and because we clipped a little bit away, it should give us some reasonable, we don't need it to be collar pointed, you know how pinpoint that is, but we just want it to be fairly, we can poke that out a little bit more. And then down at this end, we just managed to come just around the corner. So there's a little bit we can poke out there. That one came even better. And then at the other side as well. Okay, that one's not too bad at all. And then if you have either a seam ripper, or I'm just going to pull that one out a little bit, just poke out those corners, or just pull them out carefully. And you can even do it with a pin. So I'm just, the pointed end, just pull that out. And I think this one's not too bad at all. Or a tiny little bit there. Okay. And then we can just tuck in this raw edge here. And just tuck that in. Give that a little pull to straighten it. And the other side. So we've got a nice straight edge, and then I'm just taking that away to press it. So the iron's not hot. There we go. So then we have our, almost like a little bow tie, which is going to fold over. And what we want is those two pieces to be the same width, which they are. So I'm just going to give that one more little press because the iron wasn't actually very hot. So there we are. So I've got those two there. This is where we will take, oh, I didn't say, we need 2 D-rings and a slider and 2 swivel clasps as well. So we need all of those for making our bag handle. So with the D-ring, we're just going to insert our, let's call it a bow, inside, line up those 2 bottom edges. We don't need to top stitch and we don't need to close that gap, but just pop that D-ring in there. And if we put a pin just below the D-ring, that will hold it together beautifully for when we add it to our bag. So we've got 2 of those, plus we've got our strap, and we will set those aside for later. So the next thing we are going to do is we're going to get our fabrics. So we have our lining fabric on the top. We're doing this right sides together. So I've got lining fabric on the top. Here's our outer fabric, and underneath is our fusible fleece, which I've fused to the wrong side of the outer fabric already. And then we're going to, with the lining fabric only, I've put it already on here, we're going to fold this in half. So let's say this is our lining fabric. If we fold it in half and press it, it gives us a crease along the center. So this is the length of it, and this is the center width here. And then around that crease, we are going to draw a rectangle. So what I have drawn here, I'm using on this one, I'm going to use a standard zip. This is a 12-inch one, which we'll trim down, but this is a normal size 3 zip. So I have given myself a 1/2 inch rectangle, a 1/2 inch width. So you just need to draw a line 1/4 inch to the side or to both sides of our crease, and 2 inches in from the edge, and 2 inches in from that edge, so that it's central. So you'll just draw, as I say, a line 2 inches in to 2 inches before the other side, a 1/4 inch from the crease, and the same on the other side, and then just join those marks at the ends to give your rectangle. So once you have drawn the lines, we're going to actually stitch on those lines all the way around. And I'm going to start not on a corner point. I'm going to start a short distance along, because I don't like to start at a corner because it could give it a weak point. So let's start stitching across here. So on the line all the way. So this is just the same as when we do an internal zip pocket. So come to that end there, and then we'll pivot around, and then we'll come back down the other side on that line, and I've pinned the lining together so that it pins, and we'll go up to this other short, there we go, the short end, across that, the end there, and then we'll come back to meet where we started. And when I get back to where we started, I'm going to go over the first 3 or 4 stitches so that that's nice and firm. Okay, I can take my pins out now. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to cut along that centre line, and we will also cut into these diagonals. So I'm just going to pull that up and give a little snip in the centre, and then so I'm cutting through all layers. So there we go. And let's just turn that around here. So there, and I don't want to cut my stitches, so very carefully into that corner. Just going to clip that tiny little bit off there, and then if you start from the centre and work outwards, it's much better to do it that way. So from the centre out to that corner and clip into that corner like so, without clipping your stitches. Snip a tiny bit off there. Okay, so now we have a gap, and all we're going to do is we're going to post our lining fabric through that gap. So let's just pull that under there, and I'm going to post it through, and the same from the other side. Post that through like so. So you can see that has gone through there. So let's turn it over to the other side and pull the fabric back, the lining fabric, so we can see the right side. And then where those short corners are, if we just get hold of that and very carefully tweak it, I just grab both sides and give it a little wiggle, and that sets the stitches, because what we want that to be nice and smooth around that point where we clipped into when we give it a press. I'm going to do that at the other end. Now, if you can't get rid of those little creased bits, it could be that you haven't clipped close enough to your stitching in that corner. So you can always turn it back and just clip it that little bit further. So I am just clipping that around, and then I'm going to give this a press. So let's see if I can bring in the ironing board just a little, and with the iron, lift that up and bring this over here. Let's just see if Are we looking at the ironing board? It's hard to see with this way on. Yes, we are looking at the ironing board. Excellent. So now I'm going to pull back my lining because we want that to reach down to that edge. But we're going to concentrate on this piece here around, there we go, around where our zip is going to go. So let's just give that a little press. I'm actually going to stand up here. There we are. So, how can we see that? There we are. Around like that. So, pull that out to the edge. Get our outer fabric on the edge there. Give that a nice press along the edge. And push this other one out. And give that a press along the edge as well. So we want these, there we are. I think that's as neat as we can go. And then just pull those, the other fabric, the lining, right down to that bottom edge. Okay, so we have our, there we are, that's ready. So that's ready for the zip. Now what I'm going to do for ease here is I'm going to, you can either use double-sided tape, or on this, I'm just going to use a fabric glue stick. So I'm going to pop some glue right around this edge and see if this the double-sided tape wasn't as sticky as I wanted it to be the other day. So I put glue on the lining side, so I'm going to put my zip down now, and I'm then going to, making sure I've got the zipper pull in sight, in view, and I'm going to lay my, that's lovely, I'm going to lay my gap, my aperture there on the top, make sure that zip is nice and centered, and then I'm just going to give that a press to see if that will hold it nicely just while we stitch around the edge. So just for a little bit of belts and braces, I might even, oh no it hasn't, okay, hasn't held it that well, but I'll put a little pin in there, I'll put a pin in here, and that should hold it enough. I'm going through the ironing board now, aren't I? Typical. Just lift that up. Okay, and let's just put one across this end here, because I know that's nice and central. And then I'm going to take it over to the machine, and oh, I haven't got that held down. I just want this zip to be nice and central. Okay, that's fine there. See if I can get my pin in there. That's better. Okay, so we'll go back to the machine and we'll pop our zip under the needle. Now if you need to change to a zipper foot, by all means do, but my foot is quite narrow, so it would go alongside here really quite easily. So again, I'm not going to start at the edge. I'm going to start somewhere in the middle, and I'm just going to hold this, I'm going to hold the zip down while I stitch along here. I can take that pin out now, but just checking that I've got the zip nice and central. And I shall have to find myself some more double-sided tape, because that really does help to hold the zip in place a lot better. Now, slowly, just as I was saying, slowly over the zip coil, because if you're not careful, it'll break your thread, and that's just what I did there. So let's just thread that again. So there we go. So let's start stitching. So nice and slowly over here. Oh dear, didn't like that. Isn't it just typical when you say something like go slowly over the zip and just breaks your thread, which is exactly what you didn't want it to do. Must be a strong old zip, this one. Okay, let's just push that little bit over and start just there. I very rarely turn the hand wheel of the machine. There we go. So we've gone past there. So we've got around that corner, making sure my lining is all out of the way. And then carry on stitching down the other side of the zip. So also making sure that that zip is nicely centered. So just pull that back just a little bit there. And keep carrying on. Move that bit that's from the beginning. And there we go. So all we're doing is stitching just on the outer fabric. Right, and when we come around here, we'll be careful with the zip here as well. That's it all. That kindly went in between the zip coils rather than absolutely on top, which is what must have happened at the other end. So let's just pull that over just a little bit. Make that nice and even. And down we come to meet. There we are. And clip that away. And I should really... There we are. Oh, I tell you what I've probably got just there. I bet it's the little metal bits. I bet they are. That's what it is. So beware of that. I didn't actually take it that far across, did I? So let's just see, I'm going to stitch a little bit further down here, just so that's anchored. There we are. So I just altered that just a tiny bit because it was on those pesky little metal bits, and that was what was breaking my thread. Thank you very much. Okay, so I've trimmed that. That's all nicely attached now. So on the reverse, what you need to do now is just trim away, there it was, trim away the excess zip. So just be careful you don't cut your lining. So just pull that little bit up, trim that away, and our zip is now in place. Okay. So next thing to do is we are going to fold our fabric. We are going to bring both ends of our outer fabric together, like so. And then if you flip that, we've got the lining right sides together as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a pin in this bottom corner, like so, to hold that together. And then at the other side as well, we'll put a pin just here so that that is even. And what you'll notice, I'm going to do the same with the lining. I'm just going to put a pin in that end to hold that together, just across there for the time being, and a pin at that other corner here. So if you look at the middle, what we would normally do now, we would look at this center point just here, and we would line that up. But as you'll notice, there is a fold because these two pieces of because these two pieces of fabric were one piece. We've got a fold on the outer and a fold on the lining fabric. So we'll start first of all. The first thing we'll do is we will open our zip because we are going to leave. Let's just have a look in there, and we will open our zip up nice and secure. So I've opened the zip inside. We'll start with the lining end because we are going to leave a gap in the lining here. So I would leave about a 6-inch gap, and oh, it was kindly unthreaded again. Right, let's just, oh, there we go. So we are lined, that's it. So I can take the pin out of that corner, and we're going to stitch across here. I would do about 3 or 4 inches, and then reverse, and then we'll cut the thread. And we're going to leave a gap in the middle of about 6 inches. So when I start again, let's just reverse. Oh, let's reverse because I cut the thread, and carry on to the other side. And so there we have our gap in the lining. Okay, now we're going to stitch up the sides. So always, that's why I did the bottom edge first of all. So we're going to stitch from the bottom on both sides up to this fold. So let's just hold these edges together. And the reason being, because we have a fold here, we want that fold to be exactly in half. So we'll go up to there and cut. So there, as you see, is the fold which we've now stitched. So then we can flip so that we can stitch the other side, which is the lining, and just cut those threads off. Starting at that bottom edge again, we can come all the way up the side. So line those edges and looking for the fold again. We're coming all the way up to the fold. Okay, so having done that, we can now work on the outer fabric. So again, start with your bottom edge, and we're going to stitch the whole way across this time. So line that edge straight, and you're going through all the layers, wadding them all. Just don't stitch over your pin. Okay, so I stitched across the bottom. Now we're going to stitch up the sides. Oh, there's a little bit of excess wadding there, I'll just trim that away. So starting at that bottom edge and making sure these edges are aligned. And we are stitching up to a fold, like so. And I'm just reversing at the top there to hold it. And then we just work on the opposite side as well. So starting at that bottom edge, and all the way up to the fold. There we go. Right, so as you can see, at both sides, we've got the fold, and we've got a little gap, but that is part of the design of the bag. The next thing we want to do, because we have a bottom to the bag, we need to cut some corners out. So I am going to cut 1.5 inch corners in the base. If you want your bag to be narrower, you could cut smaller. Excuse me. You could cut, what square if you wanted to, or if you want it to be fatter, you could make bigger. You could do 3-inch cutouts. I'm going to do 1.5 inches. So I'm lining up with here. Let's come down a little bit there. No, down there. I am, whoops, sorry. I am lining up with, oops, you can't see here, that's it. I'm lining up with the stitching. So I've got my 1.5, there's my 1.5, 1.5, and I'm going to draw on here before I cut it out. So 1.5 inches, and you can see my, but I've measured from that stitch line, and I'm going to do exactly the same again on here. So 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, and then I'm going to do the same on the outer fabric as well. So make sure you're looking at, you won't be able to see my stitching there, but I can see that there's my 1.5 and there's my 1.5 as well. So always from the stitch line, not from the outer edge of the fabric. So 1.5, 1.5. Better to check twice, cut once. Okay. So there I have all my markings, and what I'm going to do now is just cut those corners. So cut there and there. That's 1 chopped out and 2. Now, quite often you may use a rotary cutter, but what I find with a rotary cutter cutting corners out is that you can overcut, and you end up cutting into, you cut past the edge into that little corner, and it may cut it past the seam allowance so that you've actually got a little hole there. So, let's see. Just cut that. So I've got 4 now. I've got 4 corners in the base of my bag, and all I need to do now, just what you normally do with a cutout corner, open it up and flatten it. Now what you'll find is that that fits absolutely perfectly. So this is not, a little bit better. Nest those seams where the seams meet, like just there. And if you want to put a pin there to just hold it, absolutely do. And then we're just going to stitch across there, reversing at the beginning, reversing at the end. So if we just flatten that down. Okay. And then the same with the other one here. So we're buffering a bit. Open it out, pull it apart so that those seams match, like so. Flatten it down, and as I say, it just lines up beautifully. So we can either flip that over like so, either pin it across or just hold it as I'm doing there, and then holding this side too, reverse, and there we have the second one done of the lining. So now we're working with the outer fabric, so easier to get your finger in there, pull it apart, line up those edges and those seams. So just pull that down. So it's a little bit stiffer this time, so I may very well put a pin in there just to hold it together, and then that lines up beautifully to stitch. So again, let's just flatten that out of the way and reverse at the beginning, and stitch all the way across. So that one's stitched across there, and then last one here, again, whoops, just pop that open. So you could see the fusible fleece is giving that little bit more body. Flatten that seam. Again, pop a pin in there if you would like to, or a binding clip just to hold that together, like so, just there. And then we're going to stitch across. So flatten that down, and I think that's out of the way. And when we get to the pin, we're going to pull that out, stitch across. Okay, so there is our bag with our box corners. Nearly unthreaded again. So all we need to do now is to pull that back just a little bit. Is to pull the bag through. So I'm putting my hand into the bottom, putting my hand in here, through the gap, grab the base, and I'm just going to pull that through, like so. That's it. Pull it through. So we have the lining one side and the outer fabric on the other side. So again, I'm going to pop my hand in here again, just so that I can poke my fingers into these corners, like that. Can't see which way we're going now. Right, and then also into the other. So that is, oh no, it's gone the wrong way. There we are. So I'm just poking it into this corner here, down the bottom, and then on the other side too. And then at this top edge, where the zip is, let's just open that zip up fully. If we poke up to here, we've got a little, like an ear. There it is. And what we're going to do is have one on the other side too. So I've poked out that other corner, but if you come up this side here, whoops, let's poke our finger in there. We're going to poke, because that's where the fold was. Okay, so again, we have a little point. Here's our zip. There is that little extra bit, which is along the top. So we've got our base here. You can see the base, and there is that little bit at the top. So before we do anything with that though, what we want to do is just close the gap in the base of the bag. And with this, just pop your fingers in, just push those corners out as well, just to make sure that is all stitched. And you can either go to the ironing board or pop your fingers in here and just pull it along that line, and it will give you the seam line there. And similarly on the other side, you're just tucking in 1/4 of an inch, like so. And this is going to line up for when we just stitch across here. So you can, if you like to, stitch across by hand because you don't want it to be seen, or as I'm doing there, so then you've got a nice straight opening to be closed when we just hold that together. So let's put a pin or two in here just to hold those elements or those parts of the open seam together. Let's just pull that there as well. And then we know that lines up beautifully. ball pin. There we go. So I've got my pins in there, and I'm going to start sewing just prior to where the opening is, and stitch close to the edge, and I'm just looking to see that those are all lined up, those two folded edges that I was stitching along. There we are. So, and then I'm just going to take that pin out and hold that while I stitch again a little bit further than the opening. And then what I always do is that little tester, let's just cut that little bit of thread. So the little tester is to pull the base apart, or where you just stitched, just to make sure you have stitched the whole way across, and there's no holes in there. So what we can do now is push the lining into the bag, fingers down into those corners so the lining is all the way down. Okay, and there, if you want to leave your bag as this, the other thing I need to do is poke the lining into these corners, or these points at the top near the zip. So just push that in, and similarly on the other side, you do need to just poke that out a little bit, because I haven't pulled that out as much as it should go. That's the outer fabric there. That's it. Just pull that out just a little bit. That's it. Right, so that's nice and pointy. And then push your finger into that point so the lining goes in there as well, and on this side. And as I was saying, if you wanted to just leave that as a large container, absolutely fine. Whoops, can't see that now. A little bit higher. There we are. So you could leave it just like that, or, as we're going to do, we're going to use these points. Can you see that point there? I'm going to bend them up. Whoops. Bend it up there, so that we can put our handle. So here I have my little tab, and that is going to sit over that little pointy bit. Let's just come up just a little bit. There we are. So that's just coming over the pointy bit. And because I've got the pin there, which you could put a row of stitching if you wanted to, I'm just aligning this back and the front around the point. So let's put a pin across here. So I'm lining that all up so that when we stitch through it all, it goes through the same place at the front and the back. So I just pinned that so that I can stitch across here, and I'm doing like almost a rectangle, just going around that bottom edge to hold that all together. But you want to make sure the back of your tab and the front actually line up. That could do with coming a little bit further down. So I'm doing that now. Okay. And then we'll do the same on the other side here. We'll get the other tab and we'll place that. So just open that flap up there, lay it on the top. What we also should look at is where the zip is, because, oh yes, that's about right. You can see the zip. Whoops, no, perhaps you can't. The zip end is here. So you want this to come just above. So it's probably easier to look at it this way. So, and you want it to be the same on both pieces. So pin in there. Make sure that is the same on both sides, so that we stitch through both sides at the same time. And let's just check this one out. I've got that going in from the other side, and that's it. So make sure that is the same distance from your zip, and that the front and the back are matching. That wasn't. So let's just move that just a little bit and stitch through there, stitch where it is. So that looks good. So now all I'm going to do is just stitch across here. So I go down back a little bit closer here. Owl pin. Right, get the bag out of the way so that we can do a little bit of stitching. Now this stitching here, it is going to be a little bit thick, so go nice and slowly. I'm just looking to see that that's in the same place. And also, I'm not going too close to the edge. So let's just see, that's it. So just nice and slowly. So I'm a good 1/8 of an inch away from the edge there. And nicely, and I can take the pin out and you can see where that is going through. So not quite to the edge, and then just pivot that around, and I do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches up, and then bring that across, because as I say, we do want this to match up there. So straight across there, and then back down that other little side, and then I do just a little bit over those few stitches at the beginning, just as a security, just to make that nice and strong. So you can see that is stitched across there through all the layers. Okay, and then I'll just clip the back there, so that looks nice and neat. And then we'll do exactly the same on the other side here. So let's just flatten that down, and I'll just double check that that's going through the same area, which I can see that is now, and start stitching again. And I'm just going to hold that, take my pin out, just hold that down. Oh no, you can't see anything there. I'm just going straight across to the other side, and then we will do one more stitch. And then we'll just go up the side here, about 5 stitches. Depending on the length of stitch, obviously, that you, and then come straight back over to the other side and down, and a few stitches over that first row that we stitched. Take the pin out, and there we go. So we've got the stitching on the reverse there, we've got the stitching on the front there. All we need to do now is to make, so we've got our little tabs. All we need to do now, I'm going to put that on the ironing board, is to pop the bag hardware onto our strap. So what we've got left is we've got 2 swivel clasps and a slider. Let's just see. So take one end. Always when you're adding a slider, the first thing to do is the slider. So you're going to slide the end over the bar, over the top there. So you have it just like a buckle. You've threaded that through, and then turn it to the other side, fold back that raw edge, I'm going to trim that off a little bit because it doesn't need all that. Fold that back and then fold it back onto or down onto the actual strap. So that's hidden the raw edge there. And then I'm just going to stitch across there. So always the slider first, remember. So let's just, so I'm going from the stitching and I'm just going to reverse over that line of stitching 2-3 times, or you can do a little rectangle. So let's just clip that, a little bit of thread there. So we've got that nicely, that is attached. Next thing we're going to do is go right to the other end. So here we have the, whoops, and keep it nice and straight. Here's the other end. And we're going to slide on a swivel clasp. So just feed that end or a swivel clasp onto that end. And then, and I have got the bit we've tucked under face up. So I'm then going to take this end, the other end rather, into the slider and over that again. Like, there we are. So I've slid that over the top. You can see how that is there. And I've got the end coming out. So just pull that a little bit further. And then we're going to add the swivel clasp to that end. So slot the swivel clasp on there. And we're now going to, so it's on the underneath now, turn that raw edge back like so and lay it down onto the strap just like we did at the other end. So straight down on there, and again I'm just going to stitch across in between my outer rows of top stitching and backwards and forwards, so I've gone 3 times over that same piece, and then we can just clip those bits of thread off, and there we have our slider on there with our cross or our swivel clasp at each end. So let's just, that's it, make it as small as it will be. So there is our slider on our handle. Now all we need to do is attach the strap onto the bag. Whoops. So there is our bag. I think that's it. Let's put it back again now. Now, one swivel clasp on there and a swivel clasp on to the other side. There we go. So there is our bag with the strap. Okay. There it is. Bag with the strap. And the other two, so this one got fusible fleece, has got a little bit more body on there. Do you know, all this time I haven't been able to see any comments at all, and they're just coming up again now. Anyhow, so there is our blue chambray one as well, and the original one was this floral one, but all the same in that the zip, nice roomy, nice and spacious inside. It's about a 12-inch square with a 3-inch depth to the bag. So nice long handles, and as I say, this one has got the size 3, so there are measurements for your zip opening at the top, whether you're using a standard zip or whether you're using the chunkier zip, the size 5. but you get the same effect at the end of the day. So I hope you've enjoyed. PDF is in the files along with the template for this little tab at each side. And I hope you've enjoyed. It's made me feel a little bit better doing something, talking. And hopefully things will get better very, very soon. So I will see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Let's see where we go.